The music stops, mid-song. 20,000 people freeze. Elvis drops the microphone, steps forward, kneels down. A small hand reaches up. Silence. Complete silence. Then, tears, everywhere. The year is 1977. Las Vegas International Hotel. Elvis is performing Love Me Tender when something breaks inside him. Something that will change everything. Something that will prove the king of rock and roll was something far greater than his crown. But how did we get here? How did the world's most famous performer end up stopping his own show to hold the hand of a dying 7-year-old girl? It started 3 hours earlier, backstage in the concrete labyrinth beneath the Las Vegas International Hotel. Elvis Presley sat in his dressing room, the white jumpsuit already fitted, the cape hanging behind him like angel wings. But tonight felt different. Tonight carried weight that had nothing to do with sequins or spotlights. His manager, Colonel Parker, burst through the door with his usual bombast. "Elvis, we got a full house tonight. 20,000 paying customers. The press is here. We can't afford any of your..." He paused, searching for the diplomatic word, improvisations. But Elvis wasn't listening. In his hand was a letter. Crumpled from being read and reread. The pink paper soft from tears, both his and others. It was from a mother in Memphis. Her daughter, Sarah, was 7 years old. Terminal leukemia. 3 weeks to live, maybe less. "Mr. Presley," the letter read, "my little girl asks me every day if she'll get to see you in heaven. She says you must be an angel because angels make people happy when they're sad. I know this is probably impossible, but she'll be watching your Las Vegas show on TV tonight from her hospital bed. If you could just, I don't know, say her name. Just once. It would mean everything." Elvis folded the letter. Placed it in his chest pocket. Right over his heart. The show began as it always did. Also sprach Zarathustra, thundering through the arena. 20,000 people on their feet before Elvis even appeared. The curtain dropped. The king emerged. White jumpsuit catching every light, every flash, every desperate reaching hand in the front row. For the first 40 minutes, it was pure Elvis. "That's all right, Heartbreak Hotel, Hound Dog." The crowd lost their minds with each song. This was what they came for. This was the Elvis they'd pay anything to see. But Elvis stopped singing mid-chorus. The band played 2 more beats before realizing something was wrong. The arena fell into a silence so complete you could hear hearts breaking. Elvis walked to the edge of the stage. His eyes scanned the crowd, but he wasn't seeing them. He was seeing a hospital room 3 states away. A little girl with no hair and tired eyes, watching on a small TV screen. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elvis's voice cracked slightly. Sometimes we get letters that change us. Tonight, I got one from a mama in Memphis." The crowd stirred uneasily. This wasn't part of the show. This was something else. Something raw. Elvis pulled out the pink letter. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded it. "Her little girl's name is Sarah. She's 7 years old. And she's..." He paused, composed himself, "she's fighting a battle no child should have to fight." 20,000 people held their breath. "Sarah, honey, if you're watching this, this next song is just for you." Elvis returned to center stage. But instead of calling for "Love Me Tender," he did something no one expected. He sat down. Right there on the stage floor. Cross-legged like a child at story time. The band looked confused. The colonel was frantically gesturing from the wings. But Elvis was somewhere else entirely. "You know what, Sarah? I think you need to come up here with me." And that's when it happened. Elvis looked directly into the crowd, and somehow, impossibly, his eyes found exactly what they were searching for. In the 3rd row, a man stood up slowly. He was holding something. Someone. A small figure in a simple white dress. Hair gone from chemotherapy. Eyes bright but tired. 7 years old. Sarah. The real Sarah. Not watching from a hospital bed in Memphis, but here. In Las Vegas. Her father had spent his life savings on plane tickets, hotel rooms, front row seats. One last gift. One final miracle he could give his dying daughter. Elvis saw her, and something inside the king of rock and roll completely shattered and rebuilt itself in the same moment. Security moved to intervene, but Elvis held up his hand. Let her come. Let her come up here. The father lifted Sarah over the barrier. Security helped her onto the stage. And Elvis. Elvis opened his arms. The meeting happened in slow motion. Elvis on his knees. Sarah taking small, careful steps toward him. 20,000 people watching the most intimate moment of their lives unfold in the most public place imaginable. When Sarah reached him, Elvis didn't say anything at first. He just held her. This tiny warrior who'd been fighting for her life while he'd been fighting for applause. I hear you like music, Elvis whispered, loud enough for his lapel mic to pick up. Sarah nodded. Her voice was barely audible but somehow reached every corner of that massive arena. I listen to your songs when the medicine makes me hurt. Elvis closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. What's your favorite song, sweetheart? Love Me Tender, Sarah whispered. Mama says it sounds like what love feels like. Elvis nodded. Stood up. Took Sarah's hand. Then that's what we're gonna sing. You and me. Right here. Right now. He gestured to the band. They started the opening chords. But this time was different. This time, Elvis wasn't performing for 20,000 people. He was singing a lullaby to one little girl who needed to know she mattered. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. Sarah tried to sing along, her voice thin but clear. And then something magical happened. Someone in the crowd joined in. Then another voice. Then a section. Then the entire arena. 20,000 people singing a lullaby to a dying 7-year-old girl. Elvis knelt down again, still singing, still holding Sarah's hand. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something. His TCB necklace. Taking care of business. The one he never removed. He placed it around Sarah's neck. It hung down to her knees, but she clutched it like a lifeline. This is yours now, Elvis said. And every time you look at it, you remember that the king of rock and roll thinks you're the bravest person he's ever met. Sarah looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much pain but still held wonder. Are you really going to be in heaven, Mr. Elvis? Elvis smiled through his tears. Well, I don't know about that, honey. But if I am, I'll save you the best seat in the house. The arena erupted. Not in applause, but in something deeper. 20,000 people crying, cheering, witnessing something that transcended entertainment and became pure human connection. Elvis picked up Sarah and carried her back to her father. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, everyone trying to touch this moment, to be part of this miracle. As Elvis handed Sarah back to her father, he whispered something in the man's ear. Then he took the microphone one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight you've met the real star of this show. Sarah, you keep fighting, honey. And remember, the king is pulling for you. The rest of the concert was different. Every song carried extra weight. Every note seemed dedicated to that small girl now back in her father's arms, clutching a necklace worth more than gold. When Elvis sang, Can't Help Falling in Love, to close the show, he changed the lyrics slightly. Instead of, Wise men say, only fools rush in, he sang, Wise men say, only love gets in. And he looked directly at Sarah as he sang it. Subscribe and comment now because what happened next will restore your faith in human kindness. After the show, Elvis didn't go to his usual post-concert gathering. Instead, he went to his suite and made a phone call. to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. He arranged for Sarah's entire treatment to be covered anonymously. When the hospital called to verify the donation, Elvis simply said, "Just tell them it's from a friend who believes in miracles." But the story doesn't end there. Sarah's battle continued for 3 more months. Throughout that time, Elvis called her every week. Sometimes they talked about music. Sometimes about movies. Often, they just talked about being brave. Sarah passed away on a Tuesday morning in December. She was buried wearing that TCB necklace. Elvis attended the funeral, unannounced, sitting in the back. When they lowered her casket, he stepped forward and sang, "Love Me Tender," one last time. Just for her. 6 months later, Elvis received a package. Inside was a letter from Sarah's mother, and something else. A small, hand-drawn picture Sarah had made during one of her final hospital stays. It showed Elvis with angel wings, standing next to a little girl with no hair but a big smile. At the bottom, in crayon, she'd written, "Thank you for making me feel special." Elvis framed that picture and kept it on his bedside table until the day he died. Friends said he looked at it every morning when he woke up and every night before he went to sleep. The TCB necklace was buried with Sarah, but Elvis had copies made. He gave them to other sick children he met over his final months. Each time, he told them the same thing he told Sarah, "This means you're brave enough to take care of business, even when business gets tough." But here's the part of the story that will leave you speechless. The part that proves Elvis Presley was exactly what Sarah said he was. After Elvis died in August 1977, Sarah's father received a call from Elvis's estate. The king had left instructions in his will. Every year, on Sarah's birthday, a donation was to be made to childhood cancer research. In her name. Forever. 47 years later, that donation still happens. Every February 14th, Sarah's birthday, the Elvis Presley Charitable Foundation makes a donation to pediatric cancer research. In the memo line, it always says the same thing, from the king to his princess. Keep fighting. The necklace Sarah wore was eventually donated to the Elvis Museum in Memphis. But here's what most people don't know, it's not displayed with Elvis's other jewelry. It's in the children's wing of the museum, in a case dedicated to the fans who changed Elvis as much as he changed them. On the plaque beneath it, there's a quote from Elvis himself, from an interview he gave just weeks before he died, "People think being the king means you're above everyone else. But real kings kneel down to lift others up. Sarah taught me that." That night in Las Vegas wasn't just a concert. It was a man discovering what it truly meant to be royal. It was the moment Elvis Presley stopped being just the king of rock and roll and became something far more important, a man who understood that sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply see someone, really see them, and let them know they matter. But there's more to this story that reveals the depth of Elvis's transformation. In the weeks following that concert, Elvis began changing how he approached every show. He started asking his security team to look for children in wheelchairs, families who seemed to be struggling, people who looked like they needed hope more than entertainment. He developed what his inner circle called the pause. During every concert, Elvis would find a moment to stop, scan the crowd, and connect with someone who needed it most. Sometimes it was a veteran in the front row. Sometimes it was an elderly couple holding hands in the back. Always, it was someone whose story mattered more than the set list. His band members later recalled how Elvis would spend hours before each show reading letters from fans, looking for the ones that broke his heart the most. He kept a box in his dressing room labeled Angels, filled with photos and letters from sick children, struggling families, people who had lost everything but still found the strength to reach out to their hero. The Colonel wasn't happy about these interruptions. "Elvis," he'd complain, "you're not running a charity, you're running a show." But Elvis had found something bigger than show business. He'd found purpose. One band member, James Burton, remembered Elvis saying, "I used to think being the king meant everyone looked up to me. Now I know it means I look down to lift them up. Sarah showed me that." The ripple effects of that night extended far beyond Elvis himself. Other performers began incorporating moments of human connection into their shows. The concept of wish fulfillment concerts became more common. Music venues started partnering with children's hospitals to bring sick kids to shows. Even today, major artists cite that Elvis moment as inspiration for their own charitable work. When Lady Gaga stops her concert to embrace a crying fan, when Bruce Springsteen pulls someone on stage to dance, when any performer chooses human connection over perfect performance, they're channeling what Elvis discovered that night in Las Vegas. The king had many crowns in his lifetime. But the one that mattered most wasn't made of rhinestones or gold. It was made of love, compassion, and the unshakable belief that every person, no matter how small, no matter how sick, no matter how forgotten, deserves to feel like royalty for at least one moment in their lives. Sarah's father later said, "Elvis didn't just give my daughter a necklace that night. He gave her dignity. He showed 20,000 people that her life had value. That's worth more than all the gold records in the world." Share this story and subscribe. Let Sarah's memory and Elvis's compassion inspire others. Some stories are too beautiful to keep to yourself.